Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, it's morning for me. Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are having an amazing weekend. Sorry about my throat. I have a little bit of a sore throat. I don't know what I ate here, but I think I'll get better. But yeah, I mean, exciting week coming up with FOMC and with the rate decisions and things like that. After seeing the PPI and CPI, pretty good scenarios that are shaping out in the market. We'll go over most of them, in fact, all of them. We'll talk about the seasonality, we'll talk about the economic calendar, and then we'll also talk about the earnings calendar coming up. I mean, it's almost at the tail end of the earnings as well, so nothing much going on there, like, probably two or three companies that are of my interest. After that, I'll talk about SPY, QQQ, IWM in general, and then I'll also talk about most of the core list of companies and also some of the trade ideas that I can possibly see next week, and we'll go from there. Without further ado, let me start off with our Discord here, where we start off with our weekly seasonality. Just like every week, this is a mere statistic of what has happened in the past, in the last 20 years in the market. This is no way a prediction of what's going to happen in the future. So keep that in mind. This is not something that I'm saying. Okay, this will happen, but then any number under 40 over 60 is something that I kind of take it a little bit more seriously. Where Monday for us. The Dow seems a little bit weaker, but S&P, Nasdaq specifically, 71% of the time has been green after the triple witching March OPEX. So that's very interesting, with Monday and Tuesday showing 71 and 71. So Nasdaq is going to show some relative strength with dragging S&P 500 higher. This is something that I kind of I expect on the chart as well. Wednesday also Nasdaq remains very strong, with S&P showing some kind of a weakness, with 48% of the times being red, which is basically a coin flip, right? Like it is close to 50%. So I'm not really concerned there. It's a very nice divergence that's going on Wednesday, with S&P in red and Nasdaq in green, along with the Dow. So that is quite interesting there. But we'll see what happens here on Wednesday, because Powell is also out on Wednesday, and he is the one who dictates the market. But Thursday is the day where we see some kind of a pullback in the Dow, with 33% of it being in the green. So Dow shows some weakness into Thursday. S&P and Nasdaq also showing some kind of a weakness, but not really concerning, because they are not under 40 there on Thursday. Friday again, we have that rebound in Nasdaq. So overall, this week shows Nasdaq having a lot of strength in the market and trying to hold the market higher. Probably Nvidia with their they have their conference coming up on after close on Monday. There's a keynote from Jensen, and after that, from Tuesday to Friday onwards, I mean, all 4 days, I think they have their event going on, where they will show their capabilities of their new hardware and new GPU, etc. So probably why chips. I mean, chips have been are the only ones that have been holding the market pretty much, right? So that is where we might probably see some more strength, and we'll go over most of these charts and also see what's happening there. So that's what I am seeing on the weekly seasonality going to next week. Quickly going over the earnings calendar here. Some of my favorites that I can talk about. Let's see. First one. Monday seems to be very light. Like, yeah, there's nothing really catching my eye on Monday. Tuesday, XPEV, I mean, Neo, you can probably play that into its earnings. You have PDD. That has been on a ramp up for quite some time. Like Temu is one of their products, and they've been doing pretty great. But I think mid last month, I think February is when we found some news around how their shipments were being flagged and not being allowed to come into the United States. I think there is going to be some kind of an impact on that from Temu, from PDD. So keep an eye out for that. If we do see some kind of a put flow, we'll probably pick that up into its earnings. But otherwise, I'm going to stay away. JD, Baba, these are your proxy plays here for PDD. Very interesting. Micron is another one that reports this week. We did have our 100 price target hit last week on Micron. The stock remained pretty strong also all of last week. And we did. I mean, this is one stock that has been paying us pretty well whenever we play it. About 90% success rate on that. But keep an eye out for that. If we do see some kind of a options flow or things like that, we'll probably pile into it. Right now, most of the whales exited out of the 100 calls for May, June, and July. I did see that. I did not see any roll-ups per se. Once they hit the target at 100, that is when I saw them. They were getting out. I mean, most of these got in at 89, right? When we saw that move from Micron, based off the Nvidia's based off their use of their chips or their memory components in the new Nvidia hardware. So we'll probably look into what Micron says. Micron usually guides down. Their earnings call is a little bit gloomy. Usually the stock falls after its earnings, but this time around we can probably see a pretty mighty pop on Micron, based off the chart, based off various factors that I'm looking at, and they might actually guide up because of this AI boom, right? Like, so keep an eye out for that. We'll see how the flow looks like into its earnings, and we'll probably try to play it. Next one is Nike and Lulu. Usually I play Nike or Lulu as a proxy for either or. Lululemon is one of those stocks which usually goes up after every earnings. It's like Alta, it's like CMG. These stocks always go up after earnings. So Lulu is one of them. Nike is one of those stocks that always goes down after earnings. So keep an eye out for that. Basically, Nike's exposure to China is what is going to be its biggest problem. Spending has been pretty nasty, pretty slowed down in China. So there might be a little bit of a guide down again from Nike. We'll see what happens there. Next one is FedEx. You can probably play UPS as its sympathy/proxy play. FedEx chart looks pretty good. I mean, it's trying to fill some gaps from its previous earnings. Overall, the flow is kind of bad on FedEx, so I'll keep an eye out for that into Thursday end of day. I'll probably give you a direction as to what to expect but for now, the flow on FedEx is quite bad, and which kind of shows a pretty big downside move. I mean, closer to the earnings is when we clearly see if they are trying to play the run up or run down, and are they trying to roll and things like that. But right now, most of these contracts that were bought as puts are down since I think this was about 3 weeks back or so. I was talking about FedEx bullish divergence on the daily, and it kind of played out really well. And most of these put players who have been in the market since we talked about that bullish divergence are kind of down, but they are still in position. So we'll probably have to see what's happening there. But gap fill is something that I'm expecting. If we do see an island bottom kind of a scenario on FedEx, it's probably a good stock to go long on in 2024 as well. So keep an eye out for that. Very interesting week. Five companies that are of my interest, and I will keep you posted on those flow closer to their earnings cycle. Earnings date, after market or pre-market, and we'll go from there. Next one, economic calendar, very important this week. I'll the most important I think is basically the Fed interest rate decision and projections, and the Fed press conference. Fed press conference is when basically Powell comes out, when basically you will see a lot of movement in the market. So there's nothing that you can I mean, I personally feel, I mean, the PPI and CPI's trajectory has gone wrong in 2024 for the Fed. So, they might not really do a rate hike. I definitely think they might not do a rate hike, but Powell to might have some wordplay here where he might also say, oh, you know what, there can be a little another rate hike if this trajectory continues on the CPI PPI, and that can affect the market in a bad way, is what I think. They're not. I am in the boat where I believe there will be rate cuts in 2024. I definitely believe the Fed's the Fed will not raise interest rates, but then just with the play of words, they can probably bring the stock market down and certain inflated goods down, inflated services down. Probably, but we'll see what happens there. But I personally feel that the Fed might hint on that, but then they might really not follow through on it, and have some play of words there. The second one that I'm looking at is basically the Bank of Japan rate decision, where they are talking about going. I mean, they are trying to move away from the negative rates. And Japan is the only country in the entire world that's actually having negative interest rates right now. Once they start moving out of that, yen becomes a little bit more stronger, dollar becomes a little bit weaker, gold becomes a little bit stronger. So keep an eye out for that scenario to play out if they are moving away from negative interest rates. Yes, I do think the gold run was basically for the anticipation of that news. So if the news doesn't come out, you know what to do. Gold puts, right? Like it probably will see 198, 197 GLD, 198 to 195 in GLD. So it's a two-way scenario based off the macro. There are gold futures too. Obviously, there's not much volume there if you are a futures trader. But keep an eye out for that. I think that's the second most important event this week. After that, I think the third most important ones are basically the services PMI and the manufacturing PMI. That is something that I think are a little bit more important there. There will be probably some kind of a move. You want to see improved manufacturing numbers and improved composite PMI. And do not want a fallout of those as well, which kind of is bad for the economy too, right? Like which shows the Fed's interest rate decisions, are not affecting the areas that they are intending to, have an effect on, and the manufacturing and the services PMI are basically not doing as good. So you don't want a fallout on that. You don't want any surprises. Probably an increase is better. But that's I think the third most important thing this week. These are my top three that I'll be looking out for the economic calendar front. Probably, yeah, I think Powell is the only one who is going to decide the market. If he I mean, I'll talk about the scenarios in just a bit, but these are something to look out for in the economic calendar front. Next one, we are talking about SPY here on the weekly time frame, right? Like, is this SPY? Actually, this is SPY. Inside week last week, so neither bulls nor the bears have won last week. We don't see a higher high or a higher low kind of scenario. We see a lower high, we see a higher low. So push pull action inside week, so there is a little bit of a compression that's going on in the market right now. Once there is compression, there is expansion, right? This also looks like a shooting star on top of a shooting star is a reversal candle. This also looks like a shooting star after a nice little run up that we are seeing in the market. I mean, keep an eye out for this a shooting star. If we do see a validation of it, I do think we might see a pretty good size dip. If 505 is lost, I think there is 49 of yeah, I mean, yeah, 490, 500, 505, 500, 490, and then you have 480. 480 retest is not bad at all. Like, prior resistance, which was a resistance again, we bull flagged and then broke higher. Retesting that as support is not a bad idea at all. When you look at a higher time frames, this is not going to happen next week. I'm not saying SPY is going to drop from 510 to 480 next week. This is a weekly chart. Understand your time frames. I did go over this in a very detailed setup and posted that video on YouTube as well. So understand your time frames, right? Like, you're looking at a weekly chart. This can probably take a few months to validate itself, to go back to 480, probably test that as support and go right back higher into the election cycle this year as well. So I'm not saying there's a guarantee of hitting 480, but it is a good dip that you can buy at 480. Am I selling my long-term positions here? Amazon and Google, I'm definitely going to hold both of them. I'm not going to panic sell any of that stock. If we do see a dip to 480, I'll probably buy more and ride the wave up. But don't think 480 dip is not a bad idea there. But obviously this is a weekly chart that I'm going after, so this takes a lot of time, and it is not an executable strategy just to look at the weekly chart and go after calls and puts per se. Right now, going into the lower time frames, this is interesting too, right? Like, if you're looking at a lower, a shorter time frame scenario, we are definitely seeing that bearish divergence trying to come out as a winner here, right? Like, we are seeing that higher highs, lower highs here on the RSI and higher highs on the price action, which basically tells me there is quite some there is a scenario of this playing out where the RSI is definitely dipping towards the neutral 50 zone. Once we are under the 50 zone, I think there is a 2.5 to 5% correction coming out on SPY there. Right now we did break down on the lower time frames, but we probably might see a little bit of a dead cat bounce from 508 to partially fill this bear gap, or completely fill this bear gap. But 505, 504, 498 and 489, these are my targets to the downside. Very interesting targets here. Will be something to watch on next week after FOMC. Now going back into the 65-minute time frame, this is the time frame that we use to actually, let me go back onto the daily time frame. Sorry about that. I did want to talk to you guys about another another trend line. We'll see if this is a valid trend line. I was thinking of drawing this before the call, but then I didn't have time to do it. Let's see. Yeah, this is a valid trend line. I was hoping we get some touches here as well. Let's see if there is another one. I'm just drawing some trend lines to see what are executable trend lines here on the yeah, this also kind of broke down. Let's do that because there was this reversal here, went right back down, reversal here, went right back down, reversal here. So this is a very valid trend line too. So I'm just going to remove these two. So this is a second trend line that you can probably follow along once we break this. So this short-term trend line, yes, we broke down and we did hit 508, bounced off 508, right? If we do break under 508 or this trend line here, I think we have a nice little measured move to 489 to 484 possible So keep this trend line also on watch. This is an interesting trend line here. Um, yeah, keep this trend line on watch as well. We did break down here, but this has acted as pretty good support as well, right? So on the daily, so keep an eye out for this trend line as well. So something for you to keep an eye out for if we do see some bounces there. Next one, on the 65-minute time frame, we definitely go over our gaps and what's happening on a day-to-day basis. This is what we use for trading and are something that are executable as well, right? So we did break down. This was something that we were talking about on Thursday. We had that hammer candle of 512, but then like you definitely need a confirmation. If we did break down, right, like if we broke under the trend line here, if we started under the trend line, I can show you this on our charts channel as well, where we were talking about this scenario, or this is something that we are expecting, right? There are only these are the only two trend lines to watch. 512 loss is 508.50 and the bull flag fill, which will act as support. So what happened here is we gapped down under the trend line, and then we just chugged lower back to this level at 508.50. That's essentially what happened here, and then we kind of bounced off that on Friday, but yeah, the next target that I'm seeing, I hope we don't gap under. So few scenarios that you don't want to have as a bull is if we do see a gap under this bull gap here, because this whole region here becomes a island top. Once that island top is created, the new island gaps that get created usually go after the older ones, which is somewhere around here, right? Like this was the numbers that we were talking about on the daily chart as well, 498, 500 and 503. So that is where I can probably see the market going down to, and then probably see another bounce off, because islands obviously act as strong support. So island bull gap here, so acts as a strong support, but then you'll probably see that as a dead cat bounce again to fill. If we do see that island top kind of scenario, we'll probably see some very big resistance coming out at 508.50 or so. So keep an eye out for that scenario. If we do see a gap down under this bull gap here, that is a very bad scenario for the bulls. It signifies weakness in the market, and like we'll probably see some kind of a mini correction in the market for going into Q2 of this of 2024. So the second scenario that you can probably expect is a bounce intraday fill of this particular bear gap, and then you can because this gap was opened over the weekend, we can probably see some kind of a nice little pullback of that, making it a lower high kind of scenario, right? Like this is a lower high, this is a lower high, and then we probably will see a lower high here, and we head back lower to probably fill this bull gap here. So these are my couple of scenarios that I want to talk about. What I am inclined on, I'll probably update this to you again on Wednesday once I see Mondays and Tuesdays price action and I have more data on the 65-minute chart. But right now, what I think is what is the most favorable scenario going to elections this year is filling this bear gap, going right back down, filling the bull gap, going right back up. So chop around this area, create a nice little wedge, nice little falling wedge that I'll show you this on Apple as well, right? Like create that nice little falling wedge for about a month or so. Chop most of the folks out. I mean, it will definitely be a massacre on the options front, but obviously you have to be on in a mindset of being able to switch your mindset day in and day out. So we'll probably make some money, right? Like because we are day traders, but then if you are a swing trader, it'll be a little bit more of a hassle for you to just hold on to positions, and one day up, one day down kind of scenarios will probably chop you up. I think it has already started in March, but I mean in the last couple of weeks of March. I think it has already started, but then we'll probably see an elongated falling wedge, which will break out into the summer. That is what I think will happen, and we'll talk more about that as and when I get more data out on the 65-minute chart into FOMC. So that is what I'm seeing on SPY. So the levels that you want to look out for, obviously, for 512, 515 to the upside, 50850 to the downside. If we do see a gap down on Monday or any day for that matter, under 50850, we probably will see 503, 500, and 498. Those are my targets down below. I don't see a much bigger move than 498 this week. Like that's a pretty big move, I feel. If you ask me, I don't think we'll see under 500 also, but extended target at 498. That's at most what I see a scenario on SPY right now. Next one, going on to QQQ very quickly. We did see that bearish divergence on the weekly. I was talking about this a few weeks back. Not few weeks back. I was actually talking about this last week, and we did see that bearish divergence as well, right? Like we are seeing that higher highs. We are seeing that lower highs on the RSI slowly fizzling down. It's not as weak as you know. The RSI is not as weak. Wait, actually, never mind. Where are we? We did fall under. Yeah, we did fall under. We are at 48, right? Like we are under 40, under 50 on QQQ. So a little bit more weakness on QQQ than SPY, but obviously it shows the seasonality shows that QQQ is going to be a little bit more stronger this week. So 430 is where I kind of expect a pretty good size bounce on QQQ. For 430, yeah, 430 is where I kind of expect a little bit of a bigger bounce on QQQ. So keep an eye out for that level this week if it's showing some relative strength. 434 loss is something that I did not like on Friday. I did expect a nice little bounce on 434, but it stayed weak. If we do reclaim 434, 440 retest is on the table again on QQQ. So these are your levels to look out for: 430, 430, 434, and 440. These are your levels that you want to look out for on QQQ. Mostly it will be driven by the chips. Mostly will be Nvidia's. The event that is going to happen this week, and after that, I mean, the interest rates are not going to really affect the big tech, right? Like this is something that we talked about last week as well, last year as well, right? Like if the interest rates are on a rise, most of the small caps are the ones that will be affected. It's not the big companies, because big tech, especially Google, Amazon, Apple, Meta, all these companies, they have been hoarding cash, right? Like they are cash cows, they are cash rich. They don't really have to go after loans or things like that, right? Like and because they hold so much cash is why people are trying to get into them as well as a safe haven when the interest rates are rising. So small caps will definitely be weaker if Powell is going to hint on having a other rate hike, right? Like if he says, oh, you know what, the data is bad, if we see this trajectory continuing, we'll probably have another rate hike. It's just going to be a word of mouth, but then the market will definitely react to it. So keep an eye out for words or things like that. QQQ definitely weaker than SPY in based of the RSI. Obviously we don't use RSI for day trading, right? But we can probably use that for we can definitely use that for analysis on a week to week basis. If 434 cannot be reclaimed, if we do lose 430, we'll probably see 425 and 420 again. But if 434 is broken higher, 440, 443, 446 is something that you can look out for this week. So 440, yeah, 440 is probably a retest that'll happen on QQQ, which will act as a stronger resistance here. So keep an eye out for that level there. Next one is IWM. I'm looking at IWM at 196 as the price target, where we are going to hit that bull cap as well, somewhere around the 195 196 zone. This yeah, I think we broke down, right. Like I feel, yes, we did stop right at the trend line, obviously an inside day on Friday because of OPEX. Yeah, I mean, if we can't I mean, we if we can't reclaim that trend line again, that is going to be a bad scenario for. Yeah, that's going to be a bad scenario for IWM. This is a very, very good trend line that we are seeing here. I was watching this on Thursday as well, where I was hoping that we would break under, but then bulls kind of reclaimed that 202 again. The same thing happened on OPEX on Friday as well. I was thinking we would see some kind of a clue here. Probably will have a nice little swing going on into IWM, but then I did not get any confirmation, so I'm kind of waiting for that. This is like a peekaboo movement, right, like to the downside. So keep an eye out for that scenario. If we do see loss of the trend line, probably can go after some puts there, swings into FOMC, a good risk reward going at it. Like if we do see that 199, under 200 and 196 are your most probable targets here. Looks very clean to see that target at 196. Anything to the upside if 205 needs the break and close above that. If 205 breaks and closes above, you can probably see 209 and 212 there on IWM. So keep an eye out for that. Very valid trend line here, easily executable as well. So I will keep an eye out for this, and we will probably play it to the downside if we do see a confirmation. If above 205, we'll probably cut our positions if we are in positions. We probably don't have to risk too much at that point. So keep an eye out for that on IWM. Next one, I'll talk about some trade ideas here. Some charts that are looking like they are creating some kind of a pattern again. First one coming out to Apple. Yes, Apple has a lot of bad sentiment going on. China sales growth slowing. China sales slowing down. Lot of lawsuits that are coming out of Europe, and there's quite a bit of negativity around the stock that is buzzing around. Right now, I'm not in position. I'm not going to try to take a position. But then Apple has this has a very good a track record of once it breaks that a falling wedge, something like this, right? Like if you see the falling wedge here, falling wedge here, falling wedge here, once it's the personality of Apple. Like I can probably show you something earlier as well. I don't think I have them, but anyway, once it breaks the falling wedge here, it definitely moves higher and has a bigger run up. So that's when I'll probably not probably I will definitely try to pick up shares on Apple at that point and ride the wave. But right now I'm not really interested in picking it up. Probably we will see somewhere around let's see. Yeah, we'll probably see a little bit lower here, going into 168, 165s into its before the next earnings cycle starts. 160. If you really are interested in playing Apple, yes, we are in a downtrend. Probably sell some CSPs to 150, 165 to 160. 160 into May, June is something that you can probably look for. But nice little falling wedge that is forming again. This is just like how we played AMD, right? Like if you all remember AMD, look at this falling wedge here, right? Like the falling wedge here. So this is a very simple scenario that it's a stock specific chart pattern that works for Apple, AMD. It's definitely not for Amazon, Google. I think Meta is another one that definitely works on this as well. But keep an eye out for these trend lines. This is a very valid, a very nice valid trend line which is very executable as well. The day it kind of breaks above, you want to pick up some shares to ride it to the upside back to 200. But right now, as things stand, Apple is definitely in a do not touch zone. If you have a big account, if you have if you understand CSPs, cash secured puts, that's the Apple is definitely should be on your radar. Like, this is a very good setup that has made pretty good money for me in the past on Apple. So if I do the CSPs, I'll definitely alert them. So right now I'm not in position yet, but this is something that I'm definitely looking out for this week. Probably after FOMC is what I'll be targeting Apple on. Next one, Adobe bear flag. We were talking about this bear flag. Once that bear flag broke down, it actually gapped down. Like 490s. But this is a very interesting area here. Obviously, I'm not going to touch it per se yet. But CSPs are definitely the way. I was talking about this on Friday. 400 puts into, like, June, July is pretty good. I don't see Adobe falling off to 400, but 440 is where I kind of expect it to fall off to. If 490 is broken, 470s comes out very fast on Adobe. Under 473, I think there's a very fast and a quick drop back down to 440, where we have the gap fill, and then we'll probably see a nice little bounce. So that is what I'm expecting on Adobe. I'm not expecting 400 per se. 400, I don't think 400 is my price target, but selling CSPs for 400, you can probably bang and make some good money there. If it does hit 400, it's a good level to buy it as well, because you will probably definitely see a dead cat bounce to 400, 440 to 450 again before it dips down to 380 or so. So it's a good risk reward at this point, where the stock really looks ugly and there's a lot of panic in the stock as well. Next one is AMD. Relative strength on Friday looks very, very nice. I was hoping for a retest of this trend line on Friday, but then we never got it. It bounced off 185, which is fine. Like, I don't mind missing out on opportunities per se, but it has been very strong. And if it is a stock that will move into Nvidia's earnings, Nvidia's conference, this might be your stock as well, where 192 break, we can probably see a retest of 200, 198 and 200 again on AMD. Like, if we are not seeing that, probably a retest of the upper trend line here is something that you can probably see on AMD. For me personally, I'm not really interested in playing the upside on AMD. 180 is my price target on AMD, and under 180 is 174 and 170. So keep an eye out for that. Obviously, Nasdaq is pretty strong. It's not a trade idea for this week, but I do want to see a little bit more of a pullback here, given that you are seeing those big sell volumes as well. This is a nice shooting star setup that we talked about last week, the week before, right? And after that, we did see that little drop here. Probably a dead cat bounce to 200 this week. So 200 calls is something that you want to watch out for. But my target here, I do not want to go long shares at all on AMD. My target here is 180 and 174, 170 is where I think AMD can move to. Next one is Amazon. Look above and fail setup. We'll probably see a retest of 173 here. If 173 is broken to the downside, I would be a little bit more concerned and probably hedge out my portfolio. Amazon and Google are my only long-term stocks that I'm holding right now. MSTR has been sold. Rivian has been sold. Coin has been sold. I don't know. Snow was sold. All of these were sold, which is pretty good. I mean, most of them being sold in the sense most of them were taken out on a covered call. So we did make some money, but we did miss out on some move to the upside, but then we were also saved on most of the move to the downside as well, right? So it's a double-edged sword. I don't have to FOMO when things go a little bit more higher from where I sold. I really don't have to start putting my money back when there's a big dump. It's going to be you know, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to take some time, let the stock base, and then we'll probably look into it. Next one is BA. BA looks very bad as well. We were talking about this when BA was trading around 240s, right? And after that there was this all the bad news, bad sentiment, bear flagging that has happened, and after the bear flag, we are seeing a move lower. 179.50, 176 are my targets to the downside. We'll probably see a dead cat bounce again at 176, but those are my two targets at the downside. Next one is I'll be a little bit more quicker. I'm going running out of time, but yeah. Next one, Google. Google is another one which broke out on Wednesday last week. Was showing a lot of relative strength. If we do break under 140.40 on Google, we'll probably see 137 and a retest of this trend line to play the upside. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. 144 break might see 147 again. But yeah, I mean, if we do see some kind of bad news again going after Google's the AI, 140 might break and we might probably see 137. 132 to yeah 132 is where I'll probably sell some CSPs again on Google. Last time, if you all remember, this was in Feb or Jan. We sold CSPs both times. We made money both sides. Actually, we had covered calls and the CSPs, and we made money both sides, and it was a great trade. Right now, yeah. Is this a head and shoulders pattern? I don't think so. I'll probably look for that pattern somewhere around the 137 mark. But yeah, this is a good scenario that's going out on Google right now with the break. If 140.40 can hold, we can probably see a retest of 144 and 147 on Google. The flow remains very bullish on Google as well. This one, man, this Goldman Sachs, the day it breaks 396, definitely stay in the stock. Obviously, bad macro scenario for the banks as well, with the CPI and PPI coming out hot. If the lower trend line breaks, I'll probably play some puts there. But Goldman Sachs 196, that's the level that I'll be looking for a break or to play some calls. So that's the level that I'll be looking out for to play it. So let's see. After that, let me quickly go over Nvidia and Tesla as well. Where's Nvidia? Nvidia. This is not a valid trend line per se, but you can probably look for it on the lower time frames per also. This upper trend line is fine. If we can break about 900, I think 930, 955, these are both possible on Nvidia earlier in the week. Probably a lower high kind of scenario that can form. So Nvidia calls to 950 is not a bad idea earlier in the week. Next one is everybody asks about Tesla. So Tesla sentiment is definitely weak, but they have the price increases. I did see some 180 calls, 175 calls being picked up on Friday into this week. So if we do see a dip towards 161, probably something to look out for on the dead cat bounce on Tesla. And break of 160 is probably something that you want to cut off that call position and probably position yourself in puts towards 154 as your target. There's another, I think there was someone asked me about JPM as well. Very strong bank here, trading at all-time highs every single week, looking very good. Yeah, I don't have levels here, but then I can quickly give you some levels on the daily time frame. If we do see a break and close above 190.40, we'll probably see some all-time highs again towards 192. Breaking under 186 is probably when I'll be a little bit more bearish towards 184 and 182. Probably a retest of 180 again is possible under that. So those are your two levels to watch out for on JPM. I'll update the chart and post it out for you, and probably you can trade it as well. But yeah, keep an eye out for the stock as well. Very strong bank, but my favorite is definitely Goldman Sachs because of the compression that's been happening here. It is a very similar compression that we saw on Nvidia before its run, right? Like this compression here, like this huge compression here, this compression here. It's a very good compression that happens for after a run like this. I'll probably pick up some stocks too on Goldman Sachs, but that stock is definitely on my radar. I'm not playing it per se, but then like I'm always watching it for a move. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, I hope this call was informative. I'll also release another video later on in the week. I have a new video out in our training channel where I talked about the do's and don'ts of trading and how to pick up stocks, and what stocks to trade, kind of a thing. I hope that was helpful as well last week. Anyway, have a good rest of your weekend. I will see you guys again on chat earlier in the morning. We'll post the pre-market notes and we'll go from there. Let's kill it next week as usual, and have a good rest of your weekend.